Today I'm going to go through 10 amazing single player games you should look to revisit in 2024. Many of these games have sparked series that have lasted for many years after their initial release. These games are in no particular order and are just a tip of the iceberg in terms of amazing classic single player games you should look to get into your backlog at some point. Assassin's Creed 2. In this game you take on the role of Ezio Auditore da Firenze during the Italian Renaissance. Assassin's Creed 2 is quite widely regarded as bringing the Assassin's Creed series into the mainstream, and in fact Ezio was so popular and his storyline so engaging and gripping that there was 2 further games released. I would certainly say are worth looking at as well, and in fact there was a collection released where you could get all 3 games together, which it is a must-have for all single player loving gamers out there. Alan Wake is a 2010 action-adventure game developed by Remedy Entertainment. The story follows best-selling crime novelist Alan Wake as he tries to uncover the mystery behind his wife's disappearance during a vacation in the small fictional town of Bright Falls, all while experiencing events from the plot of his latest novel, which he can't remember writing, coming to life. The pacing of Alan Wake is a little bit different to other games, where it is designed more like a television show, with episodes that contain plot twists and cliffhangers to keep you going. In the gameplay, Alan uses his flashlight to remove the darkness from the enemies, then using his firearms to finish them off, which makes it a little bit different from perhaps other games where Alan isn't really an overpowered superhero and is just an ordinary man trying to get through the events that are happening to him. The game actually did get a re-release back in 2021, which means that you can get a more up-to-date version compared to what I had back in 2010. And of course the sequel, Alan Wake 2, did come out last year, which means you don't have to wait quite as long as I did to find out what's happening with Alan.
Wake up.
Sleeping Dogs is a 2012 action-adventure game based in Hong Kong, where the story follows martial artist undercover police officer Wei Shen, who infiltrates the local triad organisation. It's got some really fun gameplay, where it focuses on Wei Shen's martial arts moves, which include fighting, shooting, and parkour abilities, and there's some pretty fun environmental takedowns as well, which can be quite brutal at times. But what kept me going back to the game was the gripping storyline with Wei Shen as he makes his way through the triad organisation and has to overcome conflicting loyalties as his time back in Hong Kong.
That's what worries me, Wei. You're one of them.
Next up, let's talk about Tomb Raider from 2013. A series that's been going on since 1996, probably needed a bit of an update, and that's what we got in this fantastic game from the new Tomb Raider in 2013, where we take on the role of a very young Lara as she learns her skills on an abandoned island. I mean, when I played this back in the day, it was quite a brutal game in terms of the deaths, not necessarily in terms of difficulty. It's certainly got a fun storyline, and the gameplay is really engaging. In fact, it's also had since 2013, there was actually an updated version a few years later, but also those 2 further sequels. So if you do really enjoy this 2013 version, there are 2 additional sequels as part of what they call the Survivor trilogy, which reconstructs the origins of Lara Croft. It's a great jumping point into the series and I highly recommend it. Next game is a game I absolutely adore, and that's Dragon Age Origins. When this game came out, I think it fundamentally shifted what I wanted from RPGs moving forward. It had a superb cast of characters, which I still love to this day, and a fantastic story which kept me going throughout. Obviously, the game has, in terms of graphical performance, declined over the years. I still say there's still aspects of Origins that still look fantastic. It can take a bit of work to get running properly on modern PCs. On consoles, I think you'll be alright if you got a disc or one of the subscription services that work perfectly fine. If you want a fantastic RPG, that's going to take you hours to get through and fully have a great time throughout. Jump into Dragon Age Origins and you'll have a great time. The gameplay perhaps is slightly dated, which that's probably the biggest criticism of Origins, but if you can get over that and you don't mind that style of gameplay, you're gonna have a great time.
This is what it means to be a Grey Warden.
Another great game from 2009, Uncharted 2, where we take on the role of Nathan Drake on his globe-trotting adventure. It's the sequel to the original Uncharted, which was an okay game, but the fact is Uncharted 2 really elevated the series. It achieved numerous Game of the Year awards from multiple publications, and I think it's one of the series that really turned the tide for the PlayStation 3 back in the day, because it was struggling a bit, and this superb single-player game brought people back to it. And I think, Naughty Dog, it turned Naughty Dog into develop. Everyone was looking to see what they were going to do next. I mean, some of the set pieces in this game are superb, and I still think about them, especially the train sequence as it shifts as you're making your way through with Drake. An absolutely fantastic game, and it was re-released on the PlayStation 4 as part of the Nathan Drake collection. Absolutely grab it if you can get the opportunity.
I sure hope you know what you're doing.
I don't have the faintest idea.
The absolute peak of superhero video games is the Arkham series. Now, you will get some people who say maybe Arkham Knight or more likely Arkham City are their particular favourites. I personally do prefer Asylum as my personal favourite. It's just a personal choice. I've got no real disagreement if you prefer the other two, really, because I think they're both fantastic games. I think just the starting point of Asylum, where it's more you're locked into that particular environment, was such a superb game and a very tightly driven narrative. I mean, the fact that they got Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill back to portray Batman and the Joker was just fantastic. And again, like another game that has been re-released recently, making it more accessible and obviously improving a little bit graphically, you're not going to have a bad time playing this game. And then of course, if you do enjoy it, you've got the 2 follow-up sequels. So I mean, the gameplay where it's not just the fact that you're Batman taking out bad guys in a linear approach, it's the whole stealth mechanics where you could stalk out the villains and then take them out strategically. I think the slight criticism there was the boss battles weren't too great. I think I'm willing to overlook it because the general gameplay, in terms, like I said, the strategic takedown, but also the hand-to-hand combat was fantastic. You've seen many games emulate the Arkham style combat moving forward, so be sure snap up Asylum if you get a chance, or probably more economical would be to say pick up the collection if you ever see it on a bundle anywhere. And in fact, I think I bought the game about 2 or 3 times now, so I've got multiple versions, got a physical copy and a digital copy.
Little bat.
Next up is Crysis. In fact, it's the only first-person shooter I've got on this list, so if you've got any first-person shooters you think people should revisit, please let me know in the comments. But this particular game, it was very graphically intense back in 2007, and in fact the meme Can It Run Crysis developed from that. And in fact, for myself, it took a few years before I could get a computer fast enough or powerful enough to actually play the game. In this game, you take on the role of Nomad using one of the nano suits where you can have different abilities to take on different missions on an open world where you're taking on North Koreans, and then later on another faction. Obviously I'm not going to try and spoil it exactly for you if you want to experience that, but I think this game is quite widely regarded not just for its graphical performances but also in terms of the first person abilities where, like I said, using the aforementioned nano suit, you can take on different abilities including stealth and power, where you can either charge into bases and smash things up as a suit-powered suit, or go stealthy and slowly take people out. Multiple ways to take on different objectives. And of course, this is another game that has had a remaster recently, I think only about 2020, there was a remastered trilogy with the 2 sequels, which I'd probably recommend getting. The 2 further sequels are a bit more linear, but were still worth getting. Next up, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. In some circles, it's the best game of the last 10 years, and certainly is a fantastic game. Playing Witcher 1 and Witcher 2, which I found were quite difficult to get into, The Witcher 3 was a fantastic experience, and the fact is that it's the third game in the video game series. Obviously it's based on a book series, but you can jump into The Witcher 3 not having played the first 2 games and not really being an issue, which is a great thing for newcomers to the series, which help people like myself able to go into the game not having to worry about having to struggle through the initial first 2 games. You follow Geralt of Rivia, but also Ciri as well, and certainly is a very lengthy game, plenty of compelling characters throughout the game, and like the previous games mentioned, an engaging single player story with complex and active gameplay. It's one of those games you're probably looking at 20, maybe 30 to 40 plus hours at this game, and probably some people say I'm not even scratching the surface at that. Last up on the list is Knights of the Old Republic, widely regarded as probably the best Star Wars game ever made. It's probably the game that got a lot of people into Western RPGs. So you start off a blank slate in the Jedi Civil War thousands of years before the movies are set, and you can choose either to be good Jedi, bad Sith, and obviously the story does dramatically change in that with regards to your choices. Classic morality system, obviously you could say somewhat basic, but I think that it works perfectly fine for the game. It has a fantastic storyline throughout. I'm not really going to go into it because there are details in it which I don't really want to be spoiled. They did try a remaster recently, which I had my fingers crossed would work out, but it looks like it's gone into development hell, which is quite a shame. I mean, the game, you can pick it up now. It is normally very cheap to get. If it was going to be less than $1, probably snap it up. You can get in all sorts of systems now. I think I got on Steam, so it's easy enough to install. Not too many difficulties in doing that. The gameplay wise, perhaps it has aged a bit. The game did come out 21 years ago, so I think that's perfectly understandable if you have difficulties with the gameplay, and if you're kind of hoping for a renewed remastered version would improve things. But I think it wouldn't hurt to give it a try. I mean, if you don't quite enjoy the gameplay, that's perfectly understandable. There's probably plenty of Let's Plays you can watch and appreciate the overall story.
This is but a taste of the dark side.
That's 10 great single-player games I think people should revisit in 2024. Is there any particular games that you think I might have missed out that you think are worth a look back on? And of course, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.